Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Business in the Bold podcast. I'm your host, Amira Siwara, and today we are going to be sitting down with Miss Ashleigh from Ashleigh Bakes Daily, and we are going to be learning all about her sweet secrets to success. Now, if you're ready to share some laughs and some tears, then we're going to go ahead and jump into this episode. So make sure you grab a snack, something to drink, and you get somewhere comfy because this is going to be a good one. All right, Miss Ashley, thank you so much for being here today. I'm excited to have you on our podcast. And
Yes.
so, before we just jump into all of our questions, I kind of wanted to just ask if you could give like a quick rundown and like overview of your business and kind of what you sell. But even though we
Yeah,
can tell the picture.
for sure. So I am Ashley.
Mhm.
Ashley Ratchford. I run Ashley Bakes Daily. It's a small micro bakery here based in Durham. I sell online, I ship nationwide, and I specialize in cookies, those ones back there. I do venture out sometimes and do other things, but my heart and my passion is really in cookies. So that's where I try to stay.
All right, that sounds so good. Thank you so much for that. And those cookies all look delicious. And I know how you talked about having a niche and like you really focus on cookies. I kind of wanted
Mhm.
to ask like what fuels like that passion, not even just for
Yeah.
cookies in general, but for baking, and how do you stay inspired creatively?
So I'll say that for me, it's the
Mhm,
joy that you see on people's face when they eat something that you made, like especially when they don't know you're looking at them. And for me, I think the first couple times it happened, I was like, okay, but like when a complete stranger, like when I caught him in the corner, like really going to town on a cookie, I was like, man, this feels awesome. Because I've always worked in corporate where I've like enjoyed helping people, but the main part of my day was kind of like making sure people had what they needed, taking care
mhm,
of them. So it was basically to keep them happy. And so for me, I'm like, well, I can bake cookies and keep people happy. And
mhm,
so I'm like, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. And as a mom, I spend a lot of time in the store.
mhm.
And so you'd be surprised by how many times I'm walking up and down the aisle and I'm like, that would be good in a cookie. Let's make that. And so honestly, I stay inspired because I'm always outside shopping. So I'll see something and be like, that would be good. Or like sometimes I'll go to like a coffee shop and be like, those flavors sound like it would be good in a cookie, and I'll throw it together. Because sometimes I just want to see how it tastes. Or
Yeah.
sometimes I might have a craving for something that like someone in my family used to like. This week I'm supposed to be making some brown butter pecan cookies, and like butter pecan ice cream is my granddad's favorite.
Mhm.
And so for me, it's like it's a cookie that's real near and dear to my heart, and I've not made it before, and I've done all the like pre work to make it. I just haven't done them yet.
Mhm.
But I think I get inspired too sometimes by the memories of people who maybe aren't here, and I'll miss them, but I don't like ice cream, so I'm like, what can I do to get that same sort of warm fuzzy feeling?
Thank you so much for that answer. I loved that answer, and I loved how you talked about the joy. Like, I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of times people limit like helping people to like corporate professions. So the fact that you're able to take something as like cookie making and use it to help people, I really like that. And I know that joy is probably what helped lead you to pursue baking as a profession. But were there any like specific like influences or like moments that made you realize like make like a bell go off in your head, be like, this is what I want to do as my profession.
So, I have two kids. One's 9 now and one's 5. And
Mhm,
so when the pandemic hit, the 9-year-old had been in school. So when she had to come home,
mhm,
it was like, what am I gonna do work wise?
mhm.
Because trying to work from home, like on phones or doing anything like that, like that wasn't possible at the time because I think her sister was maybe 1.5.
Oh
There,
yeah.
there's no quiet time with a toddler. So for me, I started baking, I think more like as a release of stress, but then when I started realizing I could make money from it,
Mhm,
and I think I always knew that because I think back to watching I think the show is called Showdown with Bobby Flay.
mhm.
When he did like the chocolate chip cookie bake off with Le'Veon, you probably weren't born when they when it came out. Because I'm 38. So, and like I was young, and I remember watching that and being like, dang, they have a whole bakery somewhere and all they make is cookies.
Mhm.
But that kind of like put it off my head. And then Chef's Table came out later with Christina Tosi, and I was like, dang. all this lady does is bake cookies. I was like, she, decided this was her thing and that's what she wanted to do. And I had always played with baking cookies here and there, but never was like, this is something I can do to make money, to like build a legacy for my kids. And I think once I figured out I could do that, it was like, I don't want to do anything else
All
because
right.
nothing else ever made me as happy as baking cookies did. And I just didn't know I could make a living doing it.
Mhm. And I think it's so important that like you took your passion and something that you're passionate about and you found out that you're able to make a living off of it. I think that's something that a lot of kids struggle with in school,
Yeah.
especially something that I see is why it pushes a lot of people to go into careers like nursing and like healthcare
Which
field.
is a great career.
Mhm.
Wait, nursing is awesome, but you're right.
Yeah.
There are plenty of nurses that maybe should be like reading to kids
Yeah.
online for a living because they love
Mhm.
to do that, but they don't see how that's possible. You're so right.
Yeah, and especially in like this economy and like the way like our world is right now, I feel like people just think it's either like nursing or engineering or computer science and like that's it because they just can't see how they can take their passion and make a living off of it. So the fact that you're a prime example of this, it's really inspiring not only to me, and I think it'll be inspiring to a lot of people as well. So I really like that.
I appreciate that. Let me tell you though that we felt the same way in school.
Mhm.
Like we felt the exact same way. We felt like these are our choices and that's it. When I went to college, because I went to North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, the
Yay, go
best HBCU in
Aggies.
the nation, okay, Aggie Pride. And I didn't think I could do anything other than go to college
Mhm.
and follow that path. And I baked a little bit in college, but I never, what I see these kids doing now in college, I'm like, dang, they inspire me because I'm like, y'all are just doing it. You're
Mhm.
like, you know what? I'm gonna try it and I'm gonna just keep trying it until I don't get anymore. And I think the generation that we grew up in, we didn't even feel like we had that sort of freedom. It was like, we're not even gonna try anything. We're literally just gonna follow this straight line. So it's hard for a lot of us to break out of that. This is what I'm supposed to be doing, shell, to
Mhm.
get into this is what I love to be doing. And if I love to do it, the money will come. That
Yeah.
sounds very cliche. It sounds like it's just a bunch of BS and like it's not true. But if you really love to do it and you put your effort into it, the money really does come.
Mhm.
Because I started out making, I think my first invoice was like $64 for a week. I
Mhm.
was like, what I'm gonna do with that? And now I maintain my whole lifestyle off cookies and I get to pick my kids up and drop them off. And so, it's possible. You just have to be able to put the work in, and it's easier to work for somebody else sometimes.
I definitely get that. I feel like for some people it is easier to work for someone else because they lack that like discipline. But the fact that you have it and you've put in the work and now you're able to base your life off of selling cookies again, I think it's wonderful. And I noticed a lot of times you'd hint at your kids, you would hint at some family members and stuff like that. And I think it's important to share like can you share like any memorable moments? Because like I said, you've hinted at a lot of your family members that help reaffirm your love for baking and help to continue this passion.
Yes, I'll say my oldest daughter, smart as she is, has
Mhm.
decided that several times that she wants to be a model. And I'm like, all this brain you got. But if that's what you want to do, I'm gonna support you. But I think the thing for me that really sold it for me and was like, okay, I'm really doing the right thing, even if it's something else that she wants to do. It was showing her that if she had a dream, she could do it. And so for me, when she was like, I know this sounds strange, but this is the career path I want to take at 9, I was like, oh, I'm teaching you something right by doing what I'm passionate about. And so for me, continuing to do what I'm passionate about, even when it's hard and when it's scary and when I'm like, am I doing the right thing? Because sometimes it's really stressful. I think back to the times when, she's like, no, mom, you're doing great. You're doing everything,
Mhm.
that you really want to be doing. Or like when I released this cookie mix, when she saw the bags for the first time, like she almost cried. And I was like, she's more emotional about it than me. But it was just the investment of like, no, like you're doing what you love to do. And it just makes me so proud hearing her say that. It just makes you like want to keep going. So
Yeah, that's amazing.
yeah, my
And it's,
youngest just wants to bake with me all the time,
yeah.
which is also fun. But I'm always like, we can't just bake cookies all the time. We gotta do something else.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember when I was younger, I really had a passion baking. It kind of died out because it's not a very big deal in my family. So it really just like warms my heart, like my younger self, when I hear that, how like you get your kids involved in it and how they able to
Yeah.
see the process. Like it makes me really happy to hear
You know, one of the reasons why, oh, sorry.
that.
One of the reasons why, so I just launched a cookie mix, and one of the reasons why I launched it was because when I was young, we didn't bake at my house either,
Mhm.
because we never had all the ingredients to bake whatever it was.
Yeah.
And it would be like, I'm not gonna go buy this just for this one time that you might want to do this. So the cookie mix that I make has all the ingredients separated out, and so you still get the benefit of making like a true recipe from scratch versus just pouring a bag in a bowl and
Mhm.
adding some water or some milk or something to it to make cookies. For, for me, it's for the kids like you who were like, I really love to do this. Mom was like, I'm not going to buy this whole list of things. And
Yeah.
so instead, I just put it all in one pack. And it's like, so, you can show her, hey, I've been making these.
Mhm.
I'm gonna just go on and get my own setup stuff because there's some things about this recipe that, I might want to change. And that's cool. I'm fine with what I do being a launching point for other people because there's room for everybody. There's
Yeah.
always going to be a different mind that's going to come up with a new recipe or a new flavor that I'm not going to think of. And so putting this mix out there in the world is sort of my way of being like, hey,
Mhm.
go try it out. Mom can't say no to this because it's all in one pack.
Yeah.
There's nothing going to be wasted. She ain't going to see it in the back of her pantry and be like, I bought this stuff and she never used it. So trust me, I've heard all of that too
Mhm.
growing up.
Yeah, and going towards more of the ingredient side,
Yeah.
something that you talked about is that it's easier for you to sell these kits and it's easy for people because, all these ingredients are together in like one pack, so they don't have to go
Mhm.
and find all that stuff. So when you are selecting your ingredients, is there ever like an emphasis on like maybe locally sourced items or organic or specialized items?
So I do. Anytime that I can get eggs locally, I try to. I like
Mhm.
local eggs. I like the yolks in them. I feel like they give the cookies like a richness.
Mhm.
Excuse me. I have not got around to like finding like a mill for flour and stuff like that, only because the flour is so testy in cookies, and I found a good mix, and I'm like, it's very scary. I would love to get with someone here locally and get like a perfect milled flour that I can just maintain from them.
Yeah.
But I will say the quality is very important to me. I will not buy the cheapest thing on the shelf, and it hurts my feelings sometimes to walk by flour. I'm like, flour's so cheap. I would love to buy that, but I can't
Yeah.
because the cookies won't turn out the same way. They won't look like they look in the picture. They'll look flat and they'll spread too much because the quality of your flour, the quality of your butter, the quality of everything really matters. Like even down to the quality of the vanilla you buy. It's important. It matters.
Mhm.
The dollar imitation vanilla is not going to give you the same thing as the $8 vanilla is going to give you in a
Yeah.
cookie. And it's hard sometimes to rationalize buying that if you're like, I don't bake a lot. I try to find the best at the best price.
Mhm.
So I do a lot of like shopping myself versus ordering from like the large companies. So I put a lot of money back into my local economy because I do all my shopping locally. Like I don't order online and have stuff like shipped. I don't use like USA foods because they won't mess with me. I'm too small for them, I guess. But I actually enjoy that because then I get to go out in the community and go to the stores and meet people. And I ask random people and see now they're gonna know because they're gonna know who I am.
Mhm.
Because I've done a pretty good job of kind of staying under the radar so people don't know what I look like when I'm out in the streets. And so I'll just be like having regular conversations with the people and be like, if you were making this, what would you put in here? And like sometimes their cookies will like show up.
Mhm.
And I actually had somebody be like, I feel like I had a conversation with you about this. And I'd be like, you did. You were the inspiration for it. And so that's fun for me. And if I just ordered everything, I'd never get to go out. I would never see any of the new stuff that's out. So it's fun. I enjoy it. So I say
And
local is nice, and I enjoy circulating
mhm.
the funds back into the community.
Yeah. And I think that's so good because especially like again like in this economy, it's really important to support these local businesses because that's their livelihood and things
Yeah.
are expensive. Like it's expensive to live. So, yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
And you definitely touched on the last question I was going to ask. I was actually going to ask about how, like, the importance of quality ingredients and how it impacts the final product. But you actually already touched on that perfectly. So we're not going to go more into that. But I definitely wanted to ask because you talked about how you don't shop online, like you shop locally and in person, and you get to talk to a lot of people. Like, how
Yeah,
have these connections benefited you? I know you talked about how you've had some conversations with people and they've been the inspiration for a new cookie,
yeah.
new flavor, but like, how have this source of like networking, how has it benefited you and your business?
Oh man, so I'll say some of the places that I'm in, like Bodega, downtown
Mhm.
Durham. So when I first moved to Durham, 6, 7 years ago, I remember going in there and I wasn't as confident, as I am now in my cookies at all because it was I wasn't really doing it as a business. It was like a hobby. I remember going in and being like, it'd be cool to have my cookies in here. And then randomly, I was at Sam's shopping locally, and the owner was there, and I recognized the emblem on his shirt, and I sparked up a conversation. I was like, "Hey, can I send you a proposal?" And now we're in the stores. So, I'll say if you go outside, and that's hard for me because I'm an introvert, I like to be in my house by myself. But if you go outside, and talk to people, it
Mhm.
works out.
Yes.
It does, and it's fun. I don't get to do a lot of person-to-person sales because I don't have a physical location anymore. And
Mhm.
so I enjoy getting to know the people that eat my cookies. So I enjoy showing up to events to deliver and maybe staying for a little while and having conversations and things like that, just so I get to know the people that are purchasing my product because everybody has a story and it's fun to learn about people.
Yeah, I think that's important, especially like seeing these people face to face. Like you said, you don't have an in-person location anymore. So being able to like know and build relationships with
Mhm.
those people who eat your cookies, I think that's important. It's a great thing to do. Yeah, to really get to know your customer. And you talked earlier about how like even though you were an introvert, you still get outside and talk. So looking more on like the challenging parts of business, like what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced in running this baking business, and how have you been able to overcome them?
So I will say the two largest challenges are for sure being introverted and not like being into sales at all.
Mhm.
Because it's hard to sell a product if you're not into sales. So
Yeah.
I've had to kind of like get out of my own way and be like, okay, um, the product is good, it'll sell itself. It's sort of like what I have to give, and that I have to do more of like presenting myself.
Mhm.
Um, I'll say working at Apple when I was younger helped a lot because Apple is also one of those products that you just have to be there to cash people out because the product sells itself.
Yeah.
Like when people come there, they kind of already know what they want. So I feel like I've built a brand to where when people come to my website, I don't have to sell them on it. They're coming because they know what they want to purchase,
Mhm.
which works for me and my level of like I like to be in the house. And I'll say the other one, man, is having kids, being a single parent. I have two kids and it's rough
Mhm.
trying to like maintain their schedule and my delivery schedules and my baking schedules and the expense of having, two kids and an entire household and trying to grow a business. I know that having done a lot of business research that Black women do not get nearly the venture capital opportunities or the grants or anything that other corporations do.
Yeah.
And for me in this industry where you see all at the top is all white males,
Mhm.
it's frustrating.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that's probably one of the largest challenges is convincing myself, no, you're supposed to be here. Like this is where you're supposed to be, even though everybody else around you is clearly, getting these advantages. It's like you're still here somehow.
Mhm.
So I think that's probably the biggest challenge is not feeling like it's an even playing field because venture capital would 100% change the fact that I had to pick them up at 2 o'clock because
Yeah.
venture capital would mean I'd be able to actually have employees. And so it wouldn't matter because I'd be able to go get my
Yeah.
kids, I'd be able to go do those things, which would then free up the mental space to do more work.
Mhm.
It it all definitely adds up. And I think we're starting to see a change, but it's still kind of the same thing out here.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that. Even for me, like some of my own like projects that I've tried to start, it is really hard to get funding and to see other people like of our like either like white counterparts or even like male counterparts to see like the ease in which they can secure funding. It's very difficult and it's very challenging. And again, like just like not even just that, but also just being a mom and on top of it and all these other things that you were mentioning, like it sounds very difficult. But again, I know I've told you this multiple times, but I'm really inspired by like your discipline and your willpower to be able to like push through and keep working on your business and growing it to the level that it is at today. And so on the flip side of the last question I have asked, what are the most rewarding aspects in owning this baking business that you have?
Right now, today, what you've said to me is probably the most rewarding because I don't see myself as disciplined or willpowered at all. So to know that that's the image means a lot to me because it's hard. Um, and I'll say, my kids being proud of me is probably the most rewarding.
Mhm.
Such a crybaby. Jesus Christ. Um, but yeah, like I said, there's not people that look like me in this industry. There's been a couple that got famous that look like us and they've lost their businesses. The most notable being Famous Amos, completely robbed of his company.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's been these large white male-owned cookie corporations,
Mhm.
Great American, which was in the mall when, I was coming up, and then you had Insomnia come up, and then you had
Yeah.
Crumble come up, and they're all white male-owned by corporate white males who don't really care about what they're putting into their product. I'm just going to be
Mhm.
honest about it. One just loads it with sugar and the other one pumps them in the freezer.
Yep.
And I take so much care and so much time to work the dough by hand, to make the cookies by hand. And I want to spread that to the employees that I have, that that's the way that it should be done. There's no reason to add all this, extra stuff. And so to see that I'm able to inspire anyone to do what they want to do, to see that, no, you know what, I can get it done. I just have to really want to do it. That means more to me than anything else could.
Mhm.
Because that means that when I'm not here, someone else is going to keep working. And that's what it's about.
Mhm. Yeah, you're leaving behind a legacy. And again, like I admire that. And that's what you were talking about, like the words and how, like, despite like having your business taken away from you, like that is a hard thing to handle. Like it's not fair, but it's unfortunate what happens. So to be able to work through that everything that happens and like you said, leave a legacy behind that someone else is gonna keep coming to continue this business, it's really powerful.
Exactly.
And like even though you don't see yourself as discipline or willpower or anything like that, you are like that's what you're doing. Like you're going out there, like in spite of all the challenges and everything you've gone through, like you're still going at this and your business is still growing, it's expanding. In your work, the things that you're trying to spread, like it's evident. And that's why people keep coming back to buy your products and it keeps growing because what you're doing is truly important and people can see the care and the value in it. And
I
I
appreciate
really like
it.
that.
Thank you so much.
Mhm. And so, for our last question to kind of end off this interview, I wanted to kind of turn it back on you and ask, like, what advice would you give to someone who's considering starting their own baking business in Durham and trying to establish themselves in the Durham community and grow it to the scale that you have on like a national level? Because like run it in Durham, but you sell these cookies like all over the nation. So,
Yeah.
what advice would you give to someone who's trying to do that?
So if I was, giving advice to someone who was trying to start a business, I would say learn all the rules in the beginning.
Mhm.
Learn all the loopholes in the beginning. Learn the most inexpensive way to do the things before you start.
Mhm.
Um, and ignore that feeling that you have to this like need to be big at the beginning. I say that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to start, and if you just start, if you just do it, like, even if it's not in baking, I would say in any business, if you want to be a designer, pick a business that you think has a horrible logo, Don't tell them it's horrible, but make them a new logo and go have a conversation. That's not going to cost you anything but time, but they may be like, you know what? I'm going to purchase this from you and I want you to size it for t-shirts and I want you to size it for that. And that's your first thing in your portfolio. And it didn't cost you anything, so I would say just start bakery specific, stay in your place or in a commercial kitchen as long as you can. The
Mhm.
market out here for real estate is very hard.
Yes.
It's very expensive. And because all of Durham is not walkable, um, I would say that it's not as feasible to
Yeah.
just be like, okay, I'm going to open here and just expect for people to come here all the time because you have to drive that traffic and it takes time.
Mhm.
It takes time. I really wanted a location, and I almost wish I had never opened one.
Mm.
It did it did allow me to do things like be featured in Durham magazine and stuff like that. I don't think I would have been noticed if I didn't have an address.
Mhm.
Because I do find sometimes that people don't take you seriously. So if there's anything you can do, I would get a business address. But I think trying to get like a storefront is a lot of money to put out in front if
Yeah.
you're doing it yourself. And you can do it yourself. You absolutely can start at the very beginning and start with a dozen cookies and start with trying to get a pop-up. Make sure you ensure you're like follow all the rules you need to follow
Mhm.
and just get started. No matter how small it is, no matter, if you're like, you know, this isn't gonna amount to anything, if that's what you think, it's not gonna.
It's not
So
gonna work.
you have to go into it like, you know what? This is my start. This is not where I'm finished.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna take every opportunity that makes sense and aligns with me.
Mhm.
Um, Make sure that you don't do things that are not aligned with you and your business. It'll make you feel like what you're doing is wrong and it's something that you love to do, so you don't want those two feelings to ever go together.
Yeah.
I think those are the most important ones. The typical financial ones, I think anybody can go to any banker and financial, but I think, if it was me, if I was starting over, that's what I would do. I would make sure that every opportunity I took aligned.
Mhm.
I would start small and just keep going and just keep going and just keep going. And I wouldn't take any no's personally because everybody has a reason for saying no, and it's probably not you. It
Yeah.
could be anything else. And if you take it personally, you carry that with you. And that next person that's waiting to talk to you is dying to say yes, but you're taking that no energy with you when you
Mhm.
go see them. So they're like, what happened to the person I met and wanted to say yes to? This is
Yeah.
them. So I would say just, make sure that you're staying in good energy, self-care, take time for yourself,
Yes.
you know. All the stuff that they don't tell you that you should do all
Yeah.
of that. Read the books, work on yourself,
Mhm.
develop yourself, continue to grow. Don't get complacent, but take breaks if you feel like you need to. I haven't developed a new flavor in probably 2 months, and that's
Mhm.
okay. I'm tired. It's the end of the school year.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I'm feeling better now, and I was inspired the other day. I went to the store. I have a couple new flavors coming out.
Mhm.
So I'm excited about that. But just do it when you're ready.
Yeah.
Don't force yourself. I'm sure you've had a time when there's been an interview and you're like, I really want to do this, but I really don't feel like it.
Mhm.
And sometimes if you push through and you do it, it's the worst interview ever. And if you just stop and don't do it and reschedule, you are in a better place and it feels better. And I think learning to listen to that voice early will get you all the way through.
Yeah. For sure. All
So
right. Yeah. Thank you so much for all this
you're so
advice.
welcome.
It definitely ministered to me. I just heard some of the stuff you're saying. I'm like, yep, like I need to start doing that and I need to take that and listen back to what you said honestly and just keep it in my mind and honestly take some of these pieces of advice. And I feel like it was really helpful and I hope it helps our listeners
Oh, thank
who
you.
go out to listen to this. And I'm so excited for your new flavors. Like I'm getting paid on Thursday, and I'm so excited to go onto your website and try this stuff out. Like, I'm so excited, and I really want to try it. And it means the world to me that you sat down and had this
Yeah,
interview with me. And thank you so much. I just wanted to thank you again. And
you
I'm
are
so
so welcome.
Yeah.
I appreciate your patience with me having to reschedule and being out of town. I just appreciate you being patient and willing to keep working with me because I really did want to sit down with you. So
Mhm.
I appreciate. I hope you have a wonderful summer. Feel free to have
Yeah.
me back if you have any further questions,
All
or
right.
if anybody has any questions for me, they can definitely reach out. I answer just about everybody back. So
Right.
thank you so much. Have a good
Thank you
rest of
so
your
much.
day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
All right, thank you guys so much for joining us on today's episode. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I did and you gained a lot of tips and different inspirations. Make sure to stay updated with us on Spotify and our socials, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.